The dusty streets of Silver Creek, Colorado seemed to shrink around Olivia Reed as she clutched the eviction notice in her trembling hands. The red stamp across it, a final declaration that her father's legacy, the only home she had ever known, would be auctioned off in 3 days' time. It was 1878, 3 years since her husband's death, and the world had not been kind to a widow trying to make her own way. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly as Olivia stood on the porch of her father's mercantile, the business she had fought to keep afloat after both her father's passing and then her husband's death in a mining accident. At 32, she had resigned herself to a life of solitude, the romantic dreams of her youth buried alongside Thomas in the small cemetery on the hill overlooking the town. "Miss Reed," Sheriff Caldwell called, his boots kicking up dust as he approached. "I'm mighty sorry about all this. If there was anything I could do—" "You're just doing your job, Sheriff," Olivia replied, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "3 days, you said?" "Yes, madam, bank's adamant, unless you can come up with the $400 by then." Olivia nodded, knowing such a sum might as well be 4,000 for all her ability to produce it. The drought had hit the town hard this year, and the mercantile had barely been breaking even. As the sheriff tipped his hat and departed, Olivia slumped against the doorframe, the weight of her predicament crushing down on her shoulders. The store had been her father's pride and joy, the heart of Silver Creek since the town's founding 20 years ago. Now it would likely become another saloon or gambling hall under its new ownership. That evening, as she closed up shop, the sound of horses drew her attention. A small caravan of 3 wagons rolled into town, accompanied by several riders. Newcomers were rare in these parts, especially since the mine had begun to dry up. Olivia watched with mild curiosity as the group made their way to the vacant lot beside the blacksmith shop. The lead rider, a tall man with broad shoulders and a worn Stetson pulled low over his face, dismounted with the easy grace of someone who'd spent his life in the saddle. "That's Zane Yates," Mrs. Billings whispered, appearing beside Olivia as if summoned by the prospect of gossip. "Heard tell he bought the old Pearson claim up north, planning to raise horses, they say." "Horses?" Olivia echoed. Silver Creek had never been ranching territory. "Mustangs," Mrs. Billings continued, clearly delighted to be the bearer of news. "Word is he has a way with wild horses that borders on magical, trains them up special for the cavalry." Olivia's gaze lingered on the man as he directed his companions with quiet authority. There was something compelling about him, a steadiness that seemed to calm even the restless horses tied to the wagons. The next morning, Olivia had just opened the store when the bell above the door jingled. She looked up from her ledger to find the stranger from yesterday standing in her doorway, hat in hand, revealing a head of thick dark hair with threads of silver at the temples. "Morning, madam," he said, his voice deep and pleasant. "Zane Yates, just setting up at the old Pearson place. Thought I'd introduce myself and stock up on supplies." "Olivia Reed," she replied, extending her hand in the business-like manner she had adopted since taking over the store. "Welcome to Silver Creek, Mr. Yates. What can I help you with today?" His hand engulfed hers, calloused but gentle. "Just about everything, I reckon. Got a list here that'll keep you busy for a while." As she gathered his supplies, Olivia found herself stealing glances at the man. He moved with the quiet confidence of someone comfortable in his own skin, examining her wares with genuine interest. "This is a fine establishment you have, Miss Reed," he commented as she tallied his purchases. "Mrs. Reed," she corrected automatically, "and thank you. It was my father's. He built it from nothing when Silver Creek was just a few tents and a dream. You run it alone now." Something in his tone made her look up. There was no pity in his gaze, just straightforward curiosity. "I do," she said, squaring her shoulders. "For the next 3 days at least." She hadn't meant to say that last part aloud, and heat rushed to her cheeks. "Trouble?" he asked simply. Before she could think better of it, Olivia found herself explaining her situation, the declining business as the town slowly died along with the mine, the loan her husband had taken out before his death, the impossible sum now due. $400, Zane Yates said thoughtfully when she finished. That's a hefty sum. Indeed it is, Mr. Yates. Olivia pushed his supplies across the counter, embarrassed by her outburst. That'll be $23.40. He placed $30 on the counter. Keep the change, Mrs. Reed, and if you don't mind, I'll be back tomorrow for the rest of my order. There's no need for charity, Mr. Yates, she said stiffly, pushing the extra money back toward him. His eyes, a striking shade of blue that reminded her of the mountain lakes, held her steadily. Not charity, Mrs. Reed. I value good service and you've provided it. Besides, I expect I'll be a regular customer as long as this establishment stands. The emphasis on his last words wasn't lost on her, but Olivia couldn't see how his custom, welcome as it was, could possibly save her store in 3 days' time. After he left, Olivia found herself thinking about Zane Yates throughout the day. There was something different about him compared to the rough miners and drifters who typically passed through Silver Creek. A steadiness, perhaps, a sense of purpose. That evening, as she was closing up, the bell jingled again. To her surprise, Zane stood there, this time accompanied by a younger man with similar features. Mrs. Reed, this is my brother Owen. He'll be helping me establish the ranch, Zane said. We've come with a proposition for you. Intrigued despite herself, Olivia invited them to the small sitting area at the back of the store where she sometimes took her lunch. I understand you're in a difficult position, Zane began once they were seated. $400 is a substantial amount to raise in 3 days. Yes, it is, Olivia agreed cautiously. I recently sold a string of horses to the army, he continued. I have the funds to cover your debt. Olivia stiffened. As I said earlier, Mr. Yates, I don't accept charity, and I'm not offering any, he replied calmly. I'm proposing a business arrangement. I need someone to manage supplies and accounts for my ranch, someone who knows merchandise and can keep proper books. Olivia blinked. You want to hire me, in a manner of speaking. I propose to pay off your debt, and in return, you'll work with us to establish a trading post at the ranch. We'll be bringing in cowboys, horses, supplies. You'd keep a percentage of all transactions. But what about my store? My home? Olivia asked, bewildered by the unexpected offer. Keep them both. Run this place during the week and ride out to the ranch on weekends to help us organize our operation. Once we're established, you can decide if you want to continue the arrangement. It seemed too good to be true. Why would you do this, Mr. Yates? You don't know me. Zane's expression remained serious. I know enough. You've maintained this business alone for years in a dying town. That speaks to your character and capabilities. Besides, I need someone the locals trust, and from what I've gathered today, that's you. Owen spoke up for the first time. My brother doesn't make decisions lightly, Mrs. Reed. If he thinks you're the right person for this venture, you can be sure he's given it careful consideration. Olivia looked between the two men, searching for any sign of deception or ulterior motive. Finding none, she took a deep breath. I would need something in writing, terms clearly stated. Zane nodded approvingly. I'd expect nothing less. I'll have papers drawn up tomorrow. We can visit the bank together the following day. After they left, Olivia sat alone in her store, hardly daring to believe the turn of events. Could this be real? Or was Zane Yates another man making promises he couldn't keep? The next morning, true to his word, Zane returned with a contract drafted by Judge Peterson, the most respected legal mind in the county. The terms were fair, even generous, spelling out her responsibilities and compensation in clear language. Why horses? She asked as they reviewed the document. This area isn't known for ranching. The wild herds in the northern valleys are some of the finest I've seen, Zane explained, his eyes lighting with passion. Strong, intelligent animals with stamina and heart. The army needs good mounts, and most ranchers can't be bothered with mustangs. Too much work, they say. But not for you. A smile curved his lips, transforming his serious face. "There's nothing like watching a wild thing learn to trust you, Mrs. Reed. Nothing quite so rewarding as earning that trust and helping it become something magnificent without breaking its spirit." The following day, Olivia and Zane stood in the bank manager's office as he counted out the money. Mr. Hawkins could barely conceal his surprise at the turn of events. "Well, Mrs. Reed, it seems you've found yourself a benefactor," he remarked with a hint of condescension. "Business partner," Zane corrected firmly, his hand resting protectively at the small of Olivia's back. "Mrs. Reed's knowledge and reputation are valuable assets to my enterprise." As they walked out of the bank, debt-free for the first time in years, Olivia felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "I don't know how to thank you, Mr. Yates, Zane," he corrected. "And you can thank me by helping make this venture a success. Now, how about I show you the ranch? Get you acquainted with what we're building." That afternoon, Olivia rode beside Zane in his wagon, heading north out of town toward the foothills. The Pearson claim had been abandoned for nearly a decade. Ever since old man Pearson had given up trying to farm the rocky soil and headed east, as they crested the final hill, Olivia gasped. The valley below was lush with spring grass, a creek winding through its center. Work had already begun on several structures: a large barn, a corral, and the framework of what would clearly be a substantial ranch house. "It's beautiful," she breathed. "It will be," Zane agreed. "Right now it's mostly potential. But I've got good men working with me, and by summer's end, we'll have the beginnings of a proper horse ranch." He showed her around the property, introducing her to the small crew of workers who greeted her with respect. Many were former cowboys from Texas, others were local men grateful for the work now that the mine was failing. "And over there," Zane pointed toward the far side of the valley, "is where the wild herds come down to water. We've already gentled a dozen Mustangs with more to come. May I see them?" Olivia asked, intrigued by the passion in his voice when he spoke of the horses. Zane's face lit up. "I was hoping you'd ask." He led her to a corral where several horses of varying colors milled about. Unlike domestic horses Olivia had seen, these animals had a certain presence: alert, proud, watching the humans with intelligent wariness. "They're magnificent," she murmured. "This black one," Zane said, gesturing toward a glossy stallion who stood slightly apart from the others, "reminds me of you." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Should I be offended, sir?" Zane chuckled, the sound warming something inside her that had been cold for too long. "Not at all. He's cautious but not fearful, observant, protective of his own, and," he added more softly, "he has more heart than any horse I've ever worked with." The weeks that followed fell into a rhythm. Olivia managed her store during the week, then rode out to the ranch on Saturdays. She organized supplies, set up accounting systems, and gradually found herself drawn into the life of the growing enterprise. Zane proved to be a man of his word and more. He treated his workers fairly, his horses with extraordinary patience, and Olivia with a respect she had almost forgotten men could show a woman. He valued her opinion and often sought her advice on matters beyond her official duties. One Saturday evening in late June, as they sat on the newly completed porch of the ranch house reviewing the week's accounts, a thunderstorm rolled in from the mountains. The first fat drops of rain sent them hurrying inside, laughing as they barely made it through the door before the skies opened. "You'll have to stay the night," Zane said, lighting a lamp. "That road turns treacherous in the rain." Olivia hesitated, aware of proprieties. "Is Mrs. Lehman here?" The housekeeper usually occupied a small room off the kitchen. She rode into town this morning to visit her daughter. "She won't be back until tomorrow," Zane admitted. "But Owen is here, and the bunkhouse is full of men who defend your honor to the death. Your reputation is safe, Olivia." It was the first time he had used her given name, and something in the way he said it made her heart beat faster. "Very well," she agreed. "Thank you." Later, as they sat before the fire sharing a simple meal, Olivia found herself studying Zane's profile. At 40, he carried the marks of a life lived outdoors, lines at the corners of his eyes from squinting into the sun, skin tanned and weathered. But there was a vitality about him, a quiet strength that drew her. "Why aren't you married?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. If he was surprised, he didn't show it. "I was once, a long time ago in Texas. She died in childbirth along with our son." "I'm sorry," Olivia said softly. "I shouldn't have pried." Zane shook his head. "It's a fair question. After Caroline died, I threw myself into work, building the ranch in Texas, then expanding north. Didn't leave much room for courting." He glanced at her. "And you, your husband, Thomas. He died in the mine collapse 3 years ago. You loved him very much," Zane said. "It wasn't a question." "I did," Olivia admitted. "We grew up together, married young, dreamed of children and growing old side by side." She smiled sadly. Life had other plans. They fell silent, the crackling fire and drumming rain the only sounds. "You think it's possible," Zane asked eventually, his voice low, "to find love twice in one lifetime?" The question hung between them, weighted with meaning. "I don't know," Olivia answered honestly. "I never thought to try." Their eyes met across the small space between them, and for a moment, Olivia felt a connection that transcended words. But then Owen entered from the back of the house, breaking the moment, and the conversation turned to business once more. Throughout the summer, Olivia found herself looking forward to her Saturdays at the ranch with an eagerness that both thrilled and frightened her. Zane was unlike any man she had known, confident without being overbearing, strong without being domineering. He listened when she spoke, considered her ideas with seriousness, and gradually, almost imperceptibly, became essential to her happiness. By August, the ranch was thriving. The first batch of trained horses had been sold to the cavalry for an excellent price, and word was spreading about the quality of Yates Mustangs. The trading post Olivia had established was doing steady business with ranchers from miles around. One golden evening, as the setting sun painted the mountains in shades of amber and rose, Zane asked Olivia to ride with him to see a new foal born to one of the gentled mares. They rode side by side, comfortable in each other's presence. When they reached the upper meadow, Zane pointed to where a dark mare grazed, a spindly-legged foal at her side. "First one born on Yates land," he said with quiet pride. "I'd like to name her Olivia if you don't object. She's got spirit just like you." Olivia felt a blush creep up her cheeks. "I'd be honored." As they watched the mare and foal, a comfortable silence settled between them. Then Zane turned to her, his expression serious. "I've been meaning to ask you something, Olivia." Her heart skipped. "Yes, the arrangement we made your work at the ranch. Are you satisfied with it?" Not what she had expected. "Of course, it's been more successful than I could have imagined." "Good," he nodded, then hesitated. "Because I'd like to propose a change." Olivia felt a flicker of unease. "What sort of change?" "I'd like you to consider selling your store in town and moving to the ranch permanently." She stared at him, caught off guard. "As my wife," he added softly. The world seemed to still around them. Olivia could hear her own heartbeat loud in her ears. "Your wife." She repeated, hardly daring to believe she had heard correctly. Zane dismounted and came to stand beside her horse, looking up at her with those steady blue eyes. "I know it hasn't been long, and perhaps I should court you properly first. But life out here has taught me not to waste time when something matters." He reached for her hand. "And you matter, Olivia Reed, more than I thought possible." Tears welled in her eyes. "Zane, you don't have to answer now," he said quickly. "Take all the time you need. I just wanted you to know where I stand. I thought that chapter of my life was closed," she whispered. "After Thomas died, I never expected to love again. And now," she met his gaze, "now I find myself thinking of a future I never dared imagine." Hope blazed in his eyes. "Is that a yes?" "It's a maybe," she said, but her smile betrayed her. "Court me properly, Zane Yates, and we shall see." His answering smile was like sunrise breaking over the mountains. True to his word, Zane courted her with a dedication that both amused and touched Olivia. He brought flowers to the store, escorted her to church on Sundays, and took her on picnics in the meadows around the ranch. He respected her independence while making it clear he treasured her company above all others. The town buzzed with gossip about the romance between the widow Reed and the rancher Yates. Most were supportive, seeing the positive changes his presence had brought to their struggling community. A few, including the bank manager who had been so eager to foreclose on her, sniffed disapprovingly at the speed of the courtship. "Let them talk," Zane said when Olivia mentioned the whispers. "Those who matter know the truth of us." As autumn painted the aspen groves gold and crimson, Olivia realized she had fallen deeply, irrevocably in love with Zane. The feeling was both familiar and entirely new, different from what she had shared with Thomas, but no less profound. She made her decision on a crisp October morning. After closing her store, she rode out to the ranch unannounced, her heart pounding with anticipation. She found Zane in the corral, working with a spirited pinto mare. He didn't notice her at first, his attention fully on the nervous horse. Olivia watched, entranced by the quiet way he moved, the gentle firmness of his hands, the low murmur of his voice as he guided the mare through her paces. When he finally looked up and saw her, his whole face transformed with joy. "Olivia, this is a pleasant surprise." "I've made my decision," she said without preamble. Zane froze, then carefully exited the corral, securing the gate behind him. He approached slowly, as if afraid sudden movements might startle her away. "And, yes," she said simply. "My answer is yes, Zane, I will marry you." For a moment he stood perfectly still. Then, to her astonishment, he knelt before her in the dusty ranch yard, taking her hands in his. "Olivia Reed," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I know you thought love was done for you. I thought the same for myself. But here now we begin today. A new chapter together." Tears spilled down Olivia's cheeks as she tugged him to his feet and into her arms. "We begin today," she echoed, before his lips found hers in a kiss that sealed their promise. They were married 2 weeks later in the small church in Silver Creek. The entire town turned out for the celebration, along with ranchers and cavalry officers who had done business with the Yates Ranch. Owen stood proudly beside his brother, while Mrs. Lehman, who had become a dear friend to Olivia, served as her matron of honor. After the ceremony, they hosted a feast at the ranch that lasted well into the night. As lanterns glowed against the deepening dusk and music filled the air, Zane led Olivia away from the festivities to a quiet spot overlooking the valley. "Happy?" he asked, his arm secure around her waist. "More than I ever thought possible," she answered truthfully. "I have a wedding gift for you." He whistled softly, and from the shadows emerged Owen, leading the black stallion Olivia had admired on her first visit to the ranch. "Midnight," Zane said, finally gentled and ready for his rider. "Zane, I couldn't possibly. He won't accept anyone else," Zane interrupted with a smile. "Believe me, we've tried. He's been waiting for you." As if to confirm his words, the magnificent horse approached Olivia and lowered his proud head, allowing her to stroke his velvet muzzle. "Thank you," she whispered, overwhelmed by the gesture and all it represented. Later that night, alone together in the ranch house that would now be their home, Olivia and Zane spoke of their hopes for the future children to fill the rooms with laughter, the expansion of the ranch, years of building something meaningful together. "I never thought I'd have this again," Olivia confessed as they lay entwined, her head on his chest. "After losing Thomas, I convinced myself that love was something that happened once if you were lucky. And now," Zane's fingers traced gentle patterns on her bare shoulder. "Now I know better," she said. "Love isn't something that runs out or gets used up. It can be reborn like spring after winter." "That's quite poetic for a practical businesswoman," he teased gently. She laughed. "Perhaps you've been a good influence on me, Mr. Yates." "I intend to be Mrs. Yates," he replied, pulling her closer, "for all the days we have together." The years that followed brought challenges and joys in equal measure. The ranch prospered beyond their expectations, becoming known throughout the West for its exceptional horses. Olivia sold her store in town, but established a larger trading post at the ranch that became a hub for the surrounding communities. Their family grew with the birth of twin daughters, Elizabeth and Sarah, followed 2 years later by a son they named James. Owen married a spirited young woman from Denver who had come west to teach at the newly established school near the ranch. Silver Creek, rather than fading away with the mine, found new life as a center for trade and ranching, due in no small part to the influence of the Yates family. Olivia often marveled at how close she had come to losing everything, only to gain more than she had ever dreamed possible. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Zane surprised Olivia with a special dinner under the stars in the meadow where he had first proposed. Their children were spending the night with Owen and his wife, giving them a rare evening alone. "Do you ever regret it?" Zane asked as they sat side by side, watching the moon rise over the mountains. "Saying yes to a dusty cowboy who upended your well-ordered life." Olivia laughed, the sound carrying across the quiet valley. Never, not for a single moment. She leaned her head against his shoulder, feeling the solid strength that had become her foundation. "You know what I think about sometimes? That moment when you knelt before me in the corral and said we begin today, I was so afraid to hope then." "And now?" he asked, echoing a question that had become a touchstone throughout their years together. "Now I know that every day with you is a new beginning," she answered. "And I'm grateful for each one." As the stars wheeled overhead and the night wrapped around them like a velvet cloak, Olivia and Zane Yates held each other close. Two people who had found in each other not just love reborn, but a love deeper and stronger for having weathered loss and emerged whole again, ready to face whatever adventures lay ahead together.